Well, let's speak to Mark Weber now. He's the director of Institute for Historical Review, and he's joining us via Skype from California. Many thanks for joining us here on Press TV, sir. Now, Tehran has, as I mentioned earlier as well, been very clear on its standpoint with regards to its participation in the Geneva II conference. It has said time and again that it will participate without any preconditions. And the UN knew that when it issued that invite. So what happened between then and now that the UN decided to withdraw the invitation?
This was obviously a move done under pressure from the United States. It's an embarrassment for the Secretary General of the United Nations and for the United Nations. It's a setback for the process of peace. As Russia has pointed out, it's very obvious that because Iran is an important economic and political factor in the region, it not only should, but it must play a role for any durable, lasting solution to the very terrible conflict in Syria.
Well, speaking of which, now we do know that the Syrian National Council has chosen to withdraw from these talks. Iran is not being invited. What does that mean for the Geneva II Peace Conference? Will it have any substance, so to speak?
It's very unlikely that this conference will produce any positive result, given that the U.S. position and the position of the rebels is that President Assad must withdraw from or be removed from power, and given the position that Iran, Russia, and the Syrian government have taken on this matter. There are some important issues that can still be addressed by this conference, but unfortunately, it's very unlikely that that will take place given the insurmountable, irreconcilable positions of the sides. And unfortunately, it looks like the conflict will be resolved, unfortunately, by force of arms, by military might, rather than by through any peaceful means.
Yep, I'd like you to expand further on that if you can. We've all been looking at the Geneva II conference, but beyond that, what happens, no matter what an agreement or lack of is come up with over there?
Well, yes, there are several ways to look at this. A conference can be valuable in dealing with all sorts of secondary issues, humanitarian aid, localized at least ceasefire matters that would help lower the tremendous human cost of this conflict. That's one thing that could be dealt with. But the larger political issue, the irreconcilable positions of the rebels and the government, are just about impossible to really reach. Unfortunately for the United States, the rebels are increasingly a fractured and divided force without a clear goal or leadership, except to overthrow the existing regime, but it has no increasingly clear idea of what the alternative will be. And this makes it very, very difficult to bring about any peaceful solution with a side that doesn't have a clear leadership or clear goals.
Okay, Director of the Institute for Historical Review, Mark Weber, they're joining us from California. It's always a pleasure having you with us here on Press TV.